Welcome to the Podfather podcast. You can find all the episodes on podfather.me. You'll find me 6 podcasts, scan the QR code, or go to roycon.com. If you're looking for a virtual assistant, go to ba.world. My guest understands both sides of the editorial desk as an editor and a writer. He worked as a magazine editor and has appeared in more than 50 publications. He's a former book acquisition editor for several publishers and a former literary agent. And he's an acquisitions editor at Morgan James Publishing. He's written over 60 books, which is incredible, through traditional publishers in a wide range of topics from children's books to biographies to co-authoring books. His newest book is 10 Publishing Myths, Insights Every Author Needs to Succeed, and it's by Morgan James Publishing. And he has been on over 50 podcasts, all given positive reviews, because I go in and check all these different things from South California in the USA. Please welcome Terry Whalin.
Roy, wonderful to be here with you.
No, I'm looking forward to this. I've seen all the lovely comments. I suppose let's start off acquisitions editor. A lot of people wouldn't know what that is. I had to check what it is because I hadn't heard of it before, but you're right.
Basically, we are a hunter and gatherer. We're the very first person that sees the submissions that come into the publishing house, and then we champion the book to my colleagues to see if I can get them a book contract and see if we will publish the book. So we're almost like a gatekeeper, I would say, within the publishing business. I mean, at Morgan James, where I work, we receive 5,000 submissions a year, and we only do about 180 to 200 books a year. So there's definitely a sorting process, and that's part of what I'm involved in every day, trying to find the right authors and the right books for us to publish.
So I suppose, like, the angle that I'd like to go today is a lot of podcasters are looking to monetize. And I think a good way is a lot of them have great content that they could create into a book. But there's also people that are doing podcasting tours and they're trying to promote a book. And I'd like to cover that side as well to help them. But let's start with the people that have great content and they're trying to make some money. You know, obviously you can go in and you can use an AI to take all the transcripts, and then there's some people that will actually take out all the gunk and make it look in a kind of format. Is there people doing that? And is it worth doing that, or are you wasting your time?
I don't know about people doing that kind of thing particularly because I'm not involved in that, but I do agree with you that there is a way to take your content and put that into a book. Part of the problem with the book business is just understanding, how books work and how they're distributed and a lot of that kind of thing, which the average person doesn't really understand. Like you can publish your book on Amazon. Anybody can do that for free, but they're a big customer of Morgan James, but they're only 24% of our overall business. So the way I look at it, you publish with Amazon, you're missing 76% of what we do for the book. We're on over 180 online platforms. We sell in the brick and mortar bookstores. We print in the UK. We print in Australia. We print in the United States. So you want to carefully examine all those kinds of elements when you try to figure out who's going to publish your book, because that's really going to affect the whole monetizing thing that you were talking about. The more people that can find it and easily buy it, the better. I think that's an important element. The other important element, I think, in this process is figuring out what is popular, what kinds of books are selling out there, and how can you, with your content, fit into that topic and do something that people are really wanting and asking for. Readers are selfish, when they pick up a book, they're all looking to see what's in it for me in that process. And so you have to think about that. Also, think about the size of your book. What's a good size for you to be able to monetize your content here? Our ideal length at Morgan James for a book is 50 to 60,000 words. It's by the word count as much as anything. And that, when you lay that out, that turns out to be about a 200-page book. And I asked David Hancock, our founder, where he got that ideal length from. He said he got that from the main buyer of nonfiction books at Barnes and Nobles. So I thought that was from somebody who knows what kind of books are really selling out there and all that kind of thing. So those are some of the basic elements that you really need to think about when you make a book and get it together at the end of the day.
And for those, because I've heard, I get a load of different people that have written books and stuff like that, and people self-publishing and everything. And sometimes the publishers, like the amount that they get, not everyone gets a forward, as you call it, or a kind of up payment as such. Or is there, it varies from obviously people to people, but I've heard of like people getting like 50 cents per book or maybe $1 a book, but not much more. Like, how does the author kind of protect himself? Not with yourselves, no, I'm just talking in general,
Right.
because there's a lot of different publishers. And as you say, somebody's writing in and you don't even, like 180 out of 5,000. That's not a good hit rate for people. So they'll try to reach out to a lot of them. How do they protect themselves to make sure that they're kind of getting what they deserved? It has to be a win-win situation.
It does. And one of the things that every author needs to do is to understand the kind of different way these contracts work. They're not all cookie cutter contracts, but they're all, no matter who you get your contract from, it's slanted toward that publisher. And so part of the key in the process is not just to sign whatever they send you, but to read through it, get help, make sure that it's a fair kind of offer that they're offering you in the contract. But yes, there's going to be royalties that they'll pay. It's different for every publisher. Some publishers pay once a year, some publishers pay quarterly. At Morgan James, we pay every month, so that's an advantage if you want to do that. Typically, they will offer a percentage of the net profits of the book is what a publisher will do. So you have to kind of understand what that lingo is. And one of the best ways to understand it is if you have a publishing contract, one of the things you can do is join the Authors Guild in New York. It's an organization that protects authors from getting shafted. and you want to be careful, who the publisher is that you hook up with. These guys have lawyers on their staff. So if you join the Authors Guild, they will advise you about how to protect yourself and what are good clauses and bad clauses and all that kind of thing. But yeah, there is a lot to it. Roy, you're exactly right to trying to figure out all these details and get them done properly.
And that guild then, is it a yearly membership? And do they have
The Authors Guild is a year.
well?
Yeah, the Authors Guild is a yearly membership. It's the strongest group for writers that's out there, and I think it's like I haven't looked in a while, but I think it's like $90 a year to join them. But one of the key advantages is these lawyers that have stacks and stacks of these contracts that they know what different publishers are doing, and they would be able to advise you what's a good one, what's a bad one, what kind of alternative clauses can you suggest, and try to negotiate so you don't kill your deal, but you want to gently go back and forth to try to get the best deal for you at the end of the day. And most of these contracts are confidential, so they're not in the public domain. It's part of the problem with them. So you almost have to go to some professional to get their insight about what's a good one and what's a bad one at the end of the day.
And I suppose even, because even if it's health or anything to do with food, having a good disclaimer as well, because it's just to protect yourself. So I presume by being in that group, you have a fantastic advantage over if you just kind of done a copy and paste because you think you're covered, but the wording can catch you.
The wording can make a big difference. And our world, unfortunately, Roy, like it or not, is very suit happy, I guess is what I say. End of the day, people like to sue each other for almost nothing, and you end up getting drug into these things that can cost you a lot of money if you're not careful about what you're doing at the end of the day.
I've had over 100 court cases, so I know what it's like. Everybody wants to take your money, but once they realize you're making money,
That's right.
they're all, and it's usually the government or the city. So yeah, you've been on about 50 podcasts. So I want to kind of go two kind of angles on this. One, the process of getting on it, but also your experience with the different types of hosts.
Sure. Yeah, I think one of the keys that um, everybody has to sort through in this process is, I would say, the pitching process that podcast hosts have to try to match up to see if that guest is going to be a good guest for them, if they're gonna talk about the kinds of things that they want to talk about for their podcast. So what I do is I make a point through Podmatch that I'm using to look at who that podcaster is, what kind of guests are they looking for. And so when I make my pitch, I always try to gear it toward that particular person so that they understand that I know they have a particular kind of reader or listener that they're looking for. And I want to key into that so that they go, oh, Terry Whalin might be a good guest for me. Let's try this. Um, I've heard other podcast hosts have told me that, gee, they get these pitches and they're terrible. They say that I'm a CPA. Well, why in the world should I want a CPA on my podcast? They give you nothing to connect them to you and what you're doing in your podcast. So I think the pitching is really a very important part of the process that hardly anybody talks about, but is very necessary for you to be thinking about to really be successful. And the pitching goes across the board as far as I'm concerned. Whatever you want, you've got to pitch the publisher, you've got to pitch a magazine editor, you've got to pitch a podcast host. You really want to key into that other person. What are they looking for, and how can you be a match for what that is?
I've like your pitch was very nice, but that I got from the thing, and then we kind of back and forth on how we would do this, what would be nice, and it was perfect. With say the speaking podcast, because I've got like that's my longest one that's going over 7 years, and I have a massive backlog. So I have a thing on it saying, look, there's a 6-month backlog, but you can jump the queue, and nobody reads it, and it's all a cut and paste, and even when I say please read my profile, they still don't do it, and it's like I go on shows myself, and I have one of my business partners I get on shows. I read everything because I make sure. What's the point in me putting someone on a show that they're not a match? But unfortunately, there's a load of people. They're just cut, paste. That's good. So this is one that I'd like to know, because AI, a lot of people are using the AI for things like this. They're even getting the AI to create like, oh, I enjoyed your episode with this. I know people that have done that, and they've told me, and I know it can be done. It's very easy. So they're pretending they listen to the episode that, and it mentions something, and then they're doing the pitch. So the host then thinks, oh, they've listened to a show. They give them a higher chance. But there's even watermarks now on ChatGPT. I mentioned that on one of my awakening shows recently. So you can even check if that's done. But I'm just curious with the books as well. Like, how do you know? Have you got a system for checking like that somebody is just using AI to create a book? And
I'm afraid I don't really know a lot about that, Roy. Unfortunately, I use AI just a tiny little bit, but I think you can almost tell if it's a mechanical kind of pitch at the end of the day. But you're exactly right. One of the keys on any of this thing is to read the guidelines. What is that person looking for? I mean, in the magazine business, we have writers' guidelines, and we actually tell people what we're looking for. So if you read those guidelines and pitch me something that I'm looking for, you have a much higher probability of getting a thumbs up or yes from me than if you just send me this story about how to wash my dog or something that I care nothing about. So yeah, and it's it's a numbers game, but on the other hand, we receive a lot of materials. So the people that really get who we are and what kinds of things we do, that comes off in their first few paragraphs of what they're pitching you at the end of the day. So there really is um, an ability for us as editors to read a very short amount of what you've sent us and say yay or nay at the end of the day.
So with the shows that you've been on, I kind of mentioned it prior to recording. Like and I do mine on Zoom. I just found it this good, but the StreamYard, there's so many different ones. What's your experience with the different hosts having a different system?
Yeah, having a different system is fine. I've made the adjustment, I guess is what I'd say. I did very little podcasting here until about 6 months ago. I was on occasionally, but not very often. But yeah, I think part of the keys for the host is to make sure they send out the link as far as where to go, because sometimes I've had to search all over the place to try to figure out where in the world I'm supposed to go, and maybe here at the last minute I even realize I don't have it, and so I have to go back to that person and say, okay, now where are we doing this recording? So it's just some basics like that they have to make sure they're really a good communicator at the end of the day. But yeah, I've had great experiences with talking to people. Uh, some of these podcasts are live, which is you know sort of get your heart beating a little faster. When that happens. Sometimes they do different things. I was on one with a podcaster in the UK that had more than one guest at a time, and what he did was he he ran like a little version of the television show Jeopardy, and that he would do to start his podcast. Now I'm terrible at Jeopardy, so I totally got beat by this other person, and then he interviewed me, and then he interviewed the other guests. So it's just a very different kind of thing. So you know, podcasters are doing all kinds of creative things, I guess is what I'd say, to attract people to their business, but also to get them together and film them. And afterwards, I'm always interested to see what the podcaster will send me. Sometimes they send little clips. Sometimes they send little images. Sometimes I have to make my own if they haven't said anything. And so there's a lot of variety in that whole area too. But I think podcasters should really take a serious look, in that process as far as how can they help that guest really be able to promote their interview at the end of the day. I don't think a lot of people think about that when they put their podcast together.
And I mean, you actually mentioned it prior to recording as well, that you were just inquiring about when it'll go, which is a good thing to know, but that you're happy to share it around. And like I do that, like I kind of say how people can help me. So I send an email out after it goes out with all the different links where it's been YouTube, BitChute, Rumble, and the audio and everything. And then I say I'm creating shorts, and if you want the shorts. And the amount of people that don't even respond, it's strange. Like, or ask, this maybe 5% that ask for the shorts. Like, I'm creating the shorts and I'm putting them out on my social, but I'm saying, hey, you can have these shorts, and that's hard. You can have them. You know, these people do. They jump the show, they jump the queue and things like that. I've got them options for some of my podcasts, but I still do it anyway, and I give it to them. And very few actually request it, which they're going around going on shows, and this is going to get them a lot of content, because when you take out a snippet, it's stuff that people don't usually see. And if you want to attract new eyeballs, this 2 minute, 1 minute is a great way of doing it. And it's like they don't get it, and it's a strange thing. But I'm surprised, and I mean, that's not just me. There's a load of people that I work with, the exact same experience.
Yeah, the great promoter, P.T. Barnum, that was the circus guy, said this quote that I love. He said, "Without promotion, something terrible happens. Nothing." And that's what people need to remember, is that, and I like what you were talking about too, Roy, the importance of the ask. If you don't ask, you don't get. I mean, that's a verse in the Bible. Actually, it's in the book of James. So I think as communicators, we really need to ask for what it is that we want at the end of the day, but also think about that person that you're asking, so that you ask them something that they're interested in. But then also, at the end of the day, after the podcast is over, promote that podcast. Use those little clips or charts or whatever it is that the podcaster is sending you. And I do that not just once, but I do it multiple times to try to really connect with that podcast host, but also to share the content of what we've done during this interview time. I mean, all of us only have 24 hours in the day, so you want to get the greatest mileage out of the time that you've taken to be on Roy's podcast here. So one of the ways I can do that is by sharing it on social and on my blog, and any tool that I have to really help promote that at the end of the day. Those are all just common things that we should be thinking about, but maybe they don't at the end of the day.
Exactly. And with the publishing and the books, is it something that you encourage people to go on podcasts? Because at the end of the day, sometimes, yeah, it can be in a store and it can be on the thing, but you're hoping that the author is doing as much promotion as possible to get the eyeballs, which can have a knock-on effect, because the more they see it, the way the algorithms work. Is that something that
that's exactly right. I'm part of the reason that I'm even on podcast today is because our founder, David Hancock, and I was with him a few months ago up in Beverly Hills. He was out here for a meeting in California, and he was encouraging me to go on podcasts, because podcasts are essentially the new radio out there. So they're all over the world. They're all kinds of different shows that you can be on. So he's the one that told me about podmatch.com, and that's why I joined up over there. And it's a great system, but when I got on the system, one of the things that I made sure I did was I watched all the orientation videos. I thought very carefully about how I was going to set up my profile, what questions I was going to ask, where I was going to lead people at the end of the day, what types of things I was going to do. Where am I going to send people for my offer, my book offer that I have? Those are all things that in the business, we talk about that as being media training. And so really, you want to think about those elements as you put together your profile, as you pitch yourself to people. Those things are very, very critical for your success, because sure, I've written a lot of books. I could have set this thing up about any book out there that I've done, but I made a point when I did my Podmatch to set it up about publishing expectations and tie it into my book here, 10 Publishing Myths. And because I really want people to get this at the end of the day and to understand how the business works and how a lot of it is outside of their control at the end of the day. But there are things that they can control. And that's really what I tried to emphasize in my book. And I mean, Roy, you know about this, but I have a special offer that where people can get my book for only $10, and it includes the shipping. So if they go to publishingoffer.com, they can find out about that, and that includes the shipping. But I also include over $200 worth of bonuses. Now, what are these bonuses? One of my bonuses, for example, is I interviewed a self-published author that was selling thousands of books to libraries. People don't think about libraries. I mean, there are over 9,000 public libraries in the United States. How do you reach those people? What do you say to them? How do you pitch those guys? How do you sell books at the end of the day? All that kind of stuff is included in this free audio that I give with my book. I mean, we all need to learn this stuff. How in the world do we do this? And one of the keys to crack the code is to keep learning, be curious, but also be proactive in that process to actually carry out and do things with the things that you have.
Excellent. And just because it's hard to kind of know how well a podcast is working for your, say, book, because sometimes you could have it, and sometimes this, like I've heard of people 2 years later they're putting it out, which is kind of difficult. There's others, they'll put it out, as you say, live and everything like that. Are you able to track like how beneficial it is? Like, would you encourage authors to do a podcasting tour? Do you think it's worth the time? Because it's not just you turning up as well. Because like sometimes people, you're doing the research as well. You're making sure before you pitch. So there's a lot of time in doing that. And some people will go away and listen to some shows and things like that. Do you think it is beneficial for the author to do the podcast tour?
Yeah, I do believe. And sure, if they listen to this a year from now, and they decide to take action on this to get my 10 Publishing Myths book, I think that's great. Podmatch says behind the scenes, they give us an idea of how many people are downloading the programs, how big the social reach is, that kind of thing. And it's not that social media sells a lot of books out there, Roy, to be honest. Social media is really all about the exposure that your book needs before somebody buys it. I mean, they've pretty much proven that somebody has to hear about your book maybe a dozen times before they actually decide to buy that book. And so part of the whole experience on social media that you're doing by stressing the benefits of what people can get from your book is you're doing those kind of pre-numbers that people need to find out about your book before they order it. They'll have to hear about it over and over, and then they finally say, oh, 10 Publishing Myths. I should buy that book and read that book and take advantage of the material and the experience that's built into that kind of thing.
And I'm not sure, have you got a niche? Because it's something I'm interested in anyway. So I mean, for $10, I think there's I've had a few people on him regarding the launch of a book, especially online with, like, say, Amazon. I'm not sure in the hard copy in libraries or in bookstores and things like that. But say the online, that some of them say the 99 cents and do it free for so much and then get it in the best-selling book and all this. I'm getting people that are giving advantages and disadvantages. So I'd love to know your take on that one.
Yeah. I think book launches are important, and I've been involved in a number of those. So basically, you gather a team of people that are willing to read your book ahead of time before the book really releases. Typically, books always release on a Tuesday, and so and they release online as well as in the brick and mortar bookstores all at the same time. So you know that launch date is coming forward. Part of the key with the launch and then with any book, I think at the end of the day, is finding people that will read your book, but then also write a short review of your book on not only Amazon, but on Goodreads and barnesandnobles.com and all these different places that will take reviews out there. Robert Cialdini, the best-selling author, American psychologist who wrote the book Influence, talks about how 98% of the people that buy a product online have read a review of that product before they buy it. Just like you were saying, you read my Podmatch reviews. So you want to look at those, just like other people are looking at those reviews to figure out if they should buy a book. You as an author need to be gathering those reviews, encouraging other people to review your book. Send them a little. I've got a little template actually that I bought from one of my writer friends about how to write a book review. And so they basically fill out that little template and then they have the words to write their book review if you'd never written a book review before. So those reviews are a key thing that you can build into your launch. Gather a team of people that are willing to do that kind of thing and write you an honest review. I have authors who call me up and they're in tears because they've got a 1-star review. And my answer to them whenever I hear that is they should rejoice, because that 1-star review has actually validated all the 5-star reviews that they have, because then people know that you've gotten honest reviews. I mean, I wrote this book years ago called Book Proposals That Sell, 21 Secrets to Speed Your Success. The book has over 150 5-star reviews. Lots of people have reviewed that book. I have a ton, I have a number of 1-star reviews for that book, Roy, where people have said, oh, I bought this book and, I threw it in the subway trash. It's what they said. And I think, hey, that's okay, because that review validates all of my 5-star reviews. And by the way, if somebody wants to get this book, Book Proposals That Sell, I wrote this book as a frustrated acquisitions editor because I wasn't getting the type of submissions that I wanted to get. And you can get this book, the whole book, from me for free if you go to bookproposals.ws, bookproposals.ws. And why would I give away my book? And part of the reason I give it away, Roy, is because at Morgan James, we've learned that if you get that free ebook from me and start to read it, there is a high probability you're going to turn and buy the print copy of the book. So giving away that free ebook, you lose nothing. You actually drive print book sales in that process. And at Morgan James, one of the things we do is we set up these pages. So our author support team, our marketing group, set up this page for me at bookproposals.ws for a website. And we also give our authors that email address so they can grow their email list and grow their relationship with the readers out there. All those kinds of things are really, really a critical part of the process, because if you're not telling people about your book and what you're doing out there, it's hard to get anybody to buy it at the end of the day. So back to your whole monetization question there, if you want to really monetize your stuff, you have to be trying and getting out there and telling people about your book. I tell this story about Chicken Soup for the Soul guys that I met years ago. I was invited in 2017 to Mega Book Marketing University out there in Los Angeles. I was living in Scottsdale, Arizona. I was running a little literary agency then, and Mark Victor Hansen invited me to come to this meeting. At that point in my life, I'd written about 50 books for traditional publishers. So I'd gotten advances. Publishers were making pretty books. All kinds of great things were happening for me. But my books weren't selling. As a matter of fact, when I got my royalty statements for my books, they were all in the minus category. And so they never earned back their advance. And I couldn't figure out what I must have been doing something wrong, but I couldn't figure out what it was. One of the speakers at Mega Book Marketing University was Jack Canfield, who's written this book called The Success Principles. What does it take to really be successful? And one of the things that the very first success principle says that I will take 100% responsibility for my own success. Now, none of us want to take 100% responsibility. We want somebody else to do it. Some editor, some publisher, please, somebody other than us. But I decided during that event that I was going to take 100% responsibility for my own success. And I realized how little I was actually doing to be telling people about my book. Sure, I had a terrywhalin.com website, but I had no social media. I wasn't blogging. I wasn't doing anything like that at all that I could be doing to be telling people about my book. So I started blogging, and my blog, I have this thing that searches for my name out there online. And about a year ago, I found this article that listed the top 27 content producers out there. And it talked about how there's over 600 million blogs. There's a lot of blogs out there. But my name was listed, Roy, as one of the top 27 content producers. And it's not that I do anything magical here. Since 2004, every week I've been blogging. And so I'm consistently putting out content. And I have over 1,700 entries in my blog on the writing life. You talk about somewhere with a lot of content. That's it. Because every week I've been writing this little article and I send it out into the world. I have about 400 people that get my blog on email every Monday. And I was talking to another podcaster, an online expert, and he was saying that the fact that I have 400 people that want to get my blog post is pretty amazing. I didn't know if that was a good number or not, but I guess it really is. But the key for everybody, no matter how you're gathering your content, is just to persist, do it consistently, and work at it all the time. I mean, that's the only way that any of this happens, is just by having good communication skills. And you ask how I got these 10 myths, Roy. I got these myths because these are the things that authors tell me all the time about their book. The very first one says that I will make a lot of money selling my book. Now, you may make money selling your book. That's part of what you do, why you write the book in the first place. But don't write it just to make money. I mean, you want to write that book because it helps you establish your authority as an expert in that area. You want to write your book because it gets you on podcasts like this. It gets you on radio shows. It gets you in the newspapers, in the magazines. It opens up incredible doors of opportunity for you. If you have a book, that's a great way to open the door for you to have opportunities for yourself and your own speaking. But you have to do some planning underneath to get all that together.
Yeah, very good. And I mean, like, you're talking about the 400 people that read your blog post. And it's kind of similar with some of the people that have episodes, because I even talk to a lot of people that I work with, whatever. Sometimes people, or even they're posting, they're saying, oh, there's only 20 people listening, and I just say, they're comparing themselves to the big boys. And all you have to do is put that amount in a room. Like, if you had 400 people in the room and then you're just talking about the blog you've just done, you go, wow, this is amazing. But most people, like that, when you see a room of 400 people, it's a lot bigger than you think. And even if there's 20 and you're coming back and they're still there next week, you'd keep doing it. So, I think sometimes we're always trying to keep up with the job. We're looking at the big boys, and there's very few that have massive numbers, instead of actually being grateful that someone is taking their time to actually read what you've written. And it's the same with a podcast, like that. People are taking the time to come in and listen. And I think we have to stop thinking too much about we need the millions or we need this, because there's very few have that. I know a lot of people, that's all they see. They see the Joe Rogans, they see the Mr. Beast and all these things, and they're comparing themselves with them. And, there's no point in doing that's like comparing me running with, the Usain Bolt or something like that and going, oh, why myself slow? Like, yet I could beat a lot of people in a race. And that's what they're doing in social media. They're competing, they're comparing themselves with the very best.
Yeah, I agree. And you don't really want to compare yourself, but you do want to be involved in these different social media things. So, like, for example, what I've done is I've picked 3 platforms that I'm basically involved in. You don't have to be involved in all of them, but pick 1 or 2 that's really good for you, and then be involved in that consistently. So, for example, with LinkedIn, I ignored LinkedIn invitations for a long time, but then finally I decided, hey, I should be accepting those. I should be on LinkedIn, and I have over 19,500 connections on LinkedIn. I mean, that's a great place to be connected to people. I'm on Facebook. The average Facebook person has about 300 people as their friends. I have like 4,900. I'm close to that 5,000 limit on Facebook. On X or Twitter, I have 176,000 followers over on Twitter, and I'm using tools. So use tools to be able to handle this thing. I spend maybe 30 minutes a day on my social media, but I have a system that I've developed to do that. And I explained all that kind of system on my blog, so other people can learn about that kind of thing too. But the key is to not be consumed by it, but to use the different tools that are out there, but then do that kind of thing consistently. And I think at the end of the day, Roy, that's what's really going to pay off for you. And that's how my book situation of not making money with my books, that's how that all turned around for me. It was by being out there and being consistent. I also tell this little story about the Chicken Soup for the Soul guys. I mean, people forget they were rejected over 160 times before they finally found a publisher that published that first Chicken Soup for the Soul book. They finally found the little publisher in Florida that would publish the first Chicken Soup for the Soul book. They told their publisher they were going to sell 1 million copies in the first year. And their publisher laughed at them. They'd never sold 1 million copies of anything. They thought that was like a ridiculous idea. It took them 1.5 years to sell 1 million books. How in the world did they do that? Well, Mark Victor Hansen and Jack Canfield talk about how when they got their book published, they practiced what they called the rule of 5. They got up every day and they did 5 things to be telling people about their book. They did a podcast, they did a radio show, they did a live event, a magazine article, a newspaper article. I mean, there are dozens of things that you can do to be telling people about your book. And they did that over and over and over until it finally caught on. And now Chicken Soup for the Soul is one of the best-selling series in the English language. But it didn't happen overnight. It happened because those authors took their own responsibility and decided to actively be doing something to promote their book. I mean, my friend John Kramer has written this over 700 page book that he has called 1,001 Ways to Market Your Book. It's a huge book. And it's because there are thousands of ideas about different ways that you can market and sell your book. There's not a 1, 2, 3 formula for any book, because if there was, every book would be a bestseller. No, it's an experiment, fail, experiment some more, fail process that we're all doing here. And so what's going to work for you may be over on YouTube, or maybe it's on Facebook, or maybe it's something else. I usually emphasize that authors need to be taking their own control. So, build your blog on your own website, have a newsletter that you're sending out consistently to people. All those kinds of things will really pay off for you at the end of the day, but do things that you can control, because so much of the process is outside of anything that you can control.
No, that's excellent advice. And just kind of connecting it with podcasting, because there's a lot of people that get me on the show and they're podcasters and they're kind of picking my brain, because I've had like all 6 of mine have been in the top 5% before getting to the top 0.5%. And they're all kind of, there's so many times people say, what's the one thing? And I'm like, there's no one thing. You have to do a combination of stuff. And you can see the energy just drain from them. And it's great that you've said that, because sometimes people think you just do the one thing as an author and this is it. And it's not. It's sweat equity, and you just be consistent and have systems in place. And when you do that, eventually they pay off. And that's how, like, you're getting hundreds of thousands of sales or downloads, whatever people are doing. And that's how it works.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And we have to be open to whatever door is going to open for us, and try those things. I mean, I heard Marcus Duhay, who's just stepped back here recently from being the chief executive officer at Penguin Random House, the largest publisher in the world, say that we live in one of the greatest times in human history since Gutenberg invented the printing press. And I believe that's true. There's tons of opportunity out there, but we have to seize those opportunities and be doing something about them, because it doesn't just come to us. We actually have to be doing it and working at it day in and day out in order to be able to find that open door for us. So, for example, in the book area, I have authors that come to me and they say, well, I don't want to do a hybrid publisher like Morgan James, because I'd have to pay some money in order to get my book published. Well, I don't want to work with a literary agent, or I only want to work with a traditional publisher that pays me in advance, or I don't want to do work made for hire where they pay me a fee to write my book. Well, my literary attorney has told me that I do more work made for hire than any other author that she knows. And it's because for years, Roy, I've been a working author in this business. I'm sure I may do, if I can negotiate the right fee, I may do it as a work made for hire, where I sign over all my rights to that other person, but they pay me up front in order to be able to do that. That's called a work made for hire. I may work with a Morgan James because we invest, thousands of dollars into each of these books that we publish. And the author has to put some skin in the game that I fully explain in the submission process for them to get their book published and get it out there into the world. But we're selling our books into 98% of the bookstores in North America, including the brick and mortar stores. So, I mean, and we have a track record. We've been around 20 years. We've produced over 6,000 titles, sold over 20 million books. I mean, we're not just yakking about this. We're actually doing it day in and day out here. So you want to work with publishers that have that kind of experience, but don't don't put guardrails around what the possibilities are for you. I mean, there's tons of possibilities out there. You just have to be open to it and then march through those doors when they open up for you.
Excellent. And just finally, Terry, like the audio, I'm just curious about your own, and also, you mentioned that there's this 24% in Amazon. Like, what percentage of books are listened via audio, and also your own kind of, are your books on audio?
Audiobooks, people rave about audio. And sure, I know that I listen to audiobooks. I love audiobooks. Only one of my books that I did with Morgan James. I've done 4 books with Morgan James over the last 13 years. Only one is on audio. It's a biography I did about Billy Graham, and I had a reader for the book, so I didn't read the text. I found a good reader, but because I listen to audiobooks, I understand that some audiobooks have something different inside them. So one of the things I did with my Billy Graham book is I did a little Google search, and I found this version of the Gaithers singing the hymn that people come forward when Mr. Graham's crusades, called "Just as I Am." And so I clipped out a few seconds of that hymn, but then I needed permission to be able to use it, right? Well, one of the things that people don't know about me is I spent a period as the part-time fiction acquisitions editor at Howard Books when it made the jump to Howard Publishing as a part of Simon & Schuster. And one of my authors was actually Gloria Gaither. I met her at an event. I swapped business cards with her, and I had her contact information in my stuff. That's another key, is to really gather the information from different people, but then have it in a way that you can actually access that information. So I reached out to Gloria Gaither and asked if I could have royalty-free permission to use this little clip in my audiobook. Within 24 hours, she granted that. And so every chapter in my Billy Graham audio, when you hear that, starts out with a little clip of the hymn, "Just as I Am." So do something different with your audiobook when you get it out there. But, with all the books that we published at Morgan James, we're not making much money on our audio. Roy, back to the monetization thing. I heard from David Hancock the other day, we're making about $4,000 a month on our audio, which is not much in light of all the books that we published over the years. So audio can be expensive to you as the author to put that together. Do you read it yourself? Do you get a reader? There's a lot of choices. I think one of the exciting things that's happening on the audio front out there is that because of AI, is actually Apple is pretty close, as I understand it, from moving just a straight text of a book into an audio format that Audible will actually accept into their system out there. So I'm kind of watching that as a way that the other 3 books that I have, including 10 Publishing Myths that aren't in audio, could maybe get an audio one of these days, because there's got to be a technology way for us to do this without consuming lots of time, energy, and money in order to be able to do that.
No, absolutely. And I mean, if the return is like that, why would you spend so much money not to get a return on investment? I mean, that's the reason we do these things. It's not just because I have an audiobook. Right. Listen, Terry, thoroughly enjoyed it. You might let the listeners know where they can find you, and also about the book again. I know you mentioned it, but you might just mention it again.
Yeah. One of the best ways for people to find me is to go to X, Twitter, and look at my profile. I have my personal email address right there, Terry@terrywhalin.com. They can Google my name. go to my blog, sign up at my blog to be getting that on email. And then I have this book, again, 10 Publishing Myths, that people can get from me if they go to publishingoffer.com. That'll pull up a page to show you where they can get the book for only $10, including the free shipping, along with over $200 worth of bonuses. So get out there and be doing something at the end of the day, to be telling people about you and your material. That's one of the most active things that you can do to monetize what it is that you do at the end of the day.
And I know I said that was the end of it, but like I seen a few people doing that, and I've got a lot of books like that, you pay kind of $10 or something like that, or 15, 5 to 15 is kind of including the shipping. And I know like the printing costs and everything. What's the advantage? Like, that's not something that's going to make you a lot of money, but is it kind of getting your services later? What's the advantage of actually doing that so cheap?
Yeah, the reason you do that is to start to make a relationship with that person and to get them connected to you, so that you're building your newsletter list, you're giving yourself other opportunities just by having that connection with the person. So you do it for that reason as much as anything.
Excellent. Okay, perfect. I'll make sure I put all the links both on the audio and the video. Thank you very much, Terry.
Thank you, Roy. Appreciate it.
So that's all for the Podfather. You'll find all our episodes on podfather.me. You can scan the QR code. You'll find everything about me and my 6 podcasts. And if you're looking for a virtual assistant, go to va.world. Sure to give us a thumbs up, 5-star rating. And when you get Terry's book, make sure you go into Amazon and wherever you got it and give a rating as well. It all helps. Even if it gets a 1-star, he'll still be happy, as you heard. Until next week, take care.